We've supported about more than 60 businesses to raise approximately £15 million.
What was it about Donald Trump that made you want to become an entrepreneur?
You know, this guy is teaching people how to do business in a fun, entertaining way on TV. I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. From that point on, I started compulsively learning about entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs actually are the ones who build society. This is the vehicle through which we transform society. And this is the vehicle through which I make an impact in the world.
Hello and welcome to the Knownness Podcast, the Vault of Knowledge. My guest today is Davies Okeowo. He is an entrepreneur and speaker from Nigeria and one of Forbes 30 Under 30. He is a managing partner of Enterprise Hill, the founder of Pitch Hub, and one of the first winners of Nigeria's The Next Titan, a business competition comparable to The Apprentice. My name is Naseem Reski, and welcome to the Vault of Knowledge. Earlier this week, you gave a talk to the current Elevate Cohort, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Perfect. We're also part of the Elevate Cohort as well, and it seems like it can't escape us, but what did you think of the Elevate scheme?
I think it's a very good initiative by the university. I think what I love particularly about it is because is the fact that it is very dynamic in the way that it is set up. So not only do you have, enterprise managers that are helping the cohort on the program, but you have a lot of experts that are being brought in. And, if I do say so myself, the enterprise managers do a great job of, bringing in just the right quality of people.
Gotcha.
And I know other facilitators on the program. So they're all people that's got a very good blend of experience, knowing, practically speaking, what to do and, been there, done that type of people, but also they're people that can teach effectively. So I think that is really good. And I know that there are grants as well as part of the program. There's a lot of, additional support that the businesses get. So I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. And like you said, I do agree. It's a perfect blend of people and whatnot. Now, it's partnered with the University of Birmingham, but from what I understand, that's not what you studied. You did study in Birmingham. So where did you study and what was it that you studied?
The great Aston University.
Yeah. And what did you study there?
So I did a master's in entrepreneurship at Aston University.
Okay, perfect. And you've also just been a speaker at the Birmingham Black Business Show. So what was that about? Talk to us about that.
So, the Black Business Show is one of the many events and programs that I speak at. So I think the Black Business Show is organized as a showcase of Black businesses in the region. I know it's hosted across the country. So there's a London Black Business Show, and then there is Birmingham Black Business Show. Last year, I remember I did a workshop during the show in and around access to finance and how businesses can raise capital and things of that nature. But I think ultimately the show's mission, from what I understand, I'm not an insider, but from what I understand is it's all designed to promote Black businesses across the region and give them more visibility, more opportunity, and a massive platform to network and connect people across the board. So people that are just starting, people that have thriving businesses, people that have businesses that are looking to grow, and people that have built successful businesses, all mixing together in one singular ecosystem. It makes for a very good collaborative atmosphere and a good atmosphere to learn and network.
Yeah, no, perfect. Yeah. And that's just like a small taste of the recent stuff you've been doing. What I want to do now is I'll get Jamie, our producer, Mr. Producer, to get us a video. And I'm just wanting to have tell us your thoughts on this video.
Okay.
There you go. So if you want to hold this. So what do you think about this video? Ooh, one of these loaded. Ooh. I'll just press the volume down. Quite a while ago, yeah.
Quite a while ago.
Yeah, so tell us about this video. What do you think?
Well, so I think the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that I've always had a preference for just communicating via videos, right? Yeah. It takes me an awful lot of time to write. I think I write well, but it just takes me too long to write. So videos come very natural to me. I don't have a problem sitting in front of a camera or have a mic pointed at me. I fire it.
That's what you find more natural and easy.
So it comes more natural to me. So that's number one. And then number two is the substance of the conversation there. Again, talking about MSMEs in Nigeria, micro, small, and medium scale businesses. So at the time of filming that video, I was based in Nigeria. It highlights the fact that the things that I talk about today are the things I've always talked about. So the entirety of my career has been devoted to supporting the cause of entrepreneurs and helping entrepreneurs get from whatever level it is that I meet them to the next level.
Yeah.
My favorite term for it is upward mobility, entrepreneurial upward mobility. So if I meet you at a 0, you've got an idea, you don't know what to do, I can help you get to a 1. If I meet you at a 5, you've got a business that is growing and generating revenue, but you feel stuck, you want it to expand, I could get you to 6. So ultimately, it's what is the thing in the particular ecosystem that I'm in per time that affect entrepreneurs directly, whether it be micro issues like internal issues for the business or immediate environment issues within the region or within the city, or they be national and international issues as they affect entrepreneurs. It's always been my cup of tea. I always want to know and I always want to teach to help entrepreneurs understand that, say, regardless of what happens, you can thrive, you can grow, you just need to know how to play the cards that you've been dealt.
Yeah. And that's kind of like, would you say that's like the starting point of all of that video?
Absolutely. It's an old one.
It's a throwback.
Right.
Going back to like right at the start, could you tell us a bit about your upbringing and your background?
My upbringing was quite interesting.
Your roots.
Where do I begin the story from? I mean, I grew up in Nigeria, in Lagos, Nigeria, and I came from a polygamous home. So my father has about 3 wives.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. And so I had a lot of step siblings and stuff. And as a result of that, we didn't see my dad much because he constantly had to be out of the house, working, goes out very early, comes back really late. So I grew up mostly with my elder brother and then my mom. But then I remember one thing that I would be eternally grateful to my parents for was in the midst of the, poverty around us. So we grew up in I wouldn't necessarily say it wasn't a slum, but we grew up in less than ideal circumstances. So we weren't very affluent and stuff. And so there were a lot of people around as well that were like us, didn't have money and things of that nature, struggled. And so most of my contemporaries, the kids at that time, went to a government public school, which, wasn't the best in terms of the standard of education that they got and all this kind of stuff. But if there's one thing I'll be eternally grateful to my parents for is they did the very best that they could to send me to one of the very best primary schools that was around at the time. So I had a very interesting experience as a child. So I'm at home, I'm in the midst of poverty and deprivation. Yeah. Right? And all the craziness and crassness that comes with that. And then in school, most of my classmates were well-to-do kids that go on holiday abroad and things of that nature. Like that. Yeah. So very quickly, and this is an attribute that I still have till today, but very quickly growing up, I noticed that I was very easily able to hold my own, whether I was on the streets or I was on the boardroom. Yeah. Right. So like if I was in a formal environment, I knew how to handle myself. If I was in a informal, very, rough environment, I know how to handle myself. So that was one of like a chameleon, it can like match your background. Absolutely. So that was one of the very early things that I picked up from my childhood. The other thing as well was, so when I finished primary school and I was heading into secondary school, I went off to boarding school. So technically, I've been living on my own since I was 10. Oh, wow. Yeah, when you see that way, yeah. Right. That's crazy. So and there's a lot that comes with that. There's a lot that comes with that. So yeah, that's, childhood was fun. Yeah. Right. Childhood was fun because again, my dad wasn't home much and then my mom had to work. I remember when we get back from school, do your homework, do the chores, clean the dishes, play football, and then we get creative. One of the things I remember doing, one of my favorite things is, the boxes that toothpaste comes in. Oh yeah, right? The little rectangle boxes. We drew holes in them and then we take, what's it called now? corkscrews and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we'll make tires and then we'll just string a rope on it and then we'll drag it around.
Turn it into like a car.
Yeah, and if you're driving around and you see like a grasshopper or like a ant or something, you pick it up, you drop it in the box like you're giving
Like
a
it's a
passenger
bus.
a lift.
Yeah.
That was a lot of creativity back then. I mean, you look at that now, you go, oh, those were nice memories. But childhood was fun.
It's like the Bugs Life movie, yeah.
Absolutely. And lots of football as well.
Yeah, no, I can imagine, yeah. But yeah, I can see like where a lot of your skills kind of start developing from such a young age, the creativity and also having to adapt to different situations at such a young age as well. Would you say a lot of those skills have translated into your professional life?
Absolutely, I definitely will. One of the things that is underrated a whole lot is just adaptability. And I think that I've got it in loads. The whole idea of being able to not look out of place when you are in a very formal setting or a semi-formal setting or a non-formal setting and completely informal setting.
Like a new environment.
It's largely underrated. And it's not just the environment, it's the people.
Yeah.
Right? It's also the people because the behaviors and the conduct and the nuances in those environments are different. But if you double click on that people theme, the other thing that it does is it gives you, for me, one of the things I observed that I could do very early is I could reason from other people's perspectives. Right? So if I'm having a conversation with someone and they're telling me about themselves, in my head, the process going on is, okay, this is who they are and this is their viewpoint, right? How do I engage with them so that we have a great time together? It's sort of like the underlying theme in my head. Because when we see adaptability, it's a big word. Sometimes it's hard to pinpoint, but for me, those are the things. And those are the seeds of empathy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Being able to see the world from somebody's, eyes and, standing in somebody's shoes and looking at the world they're from. So I think that, those skills that I picked up as a kid definitely has played a huge role in my life as an adult and what it is that I do today and things of that nature.
So I can see, and that's some very good examples of things that you saw in childhood that translated into adulthood.
And by the way, I should mention this one because it's fun. So I don't drink.
Okay.
Right? And sometimes people ask me, Davies, why don't you drink? Is it because you're a Christian? I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with my faith. The actual reason why I don't drink was that I think when I was about 7, I saw a drunk man beat his wife mercilessly on the streets.
Yeah.
Not even in the confines of the house.
It's in public.
On the street. I said to myself right then and there that I would never drink and I would never lay my hands on a woman.
After seeing something as crazy as that.
Talk about childhood influences.
No, I can see like from everything you've said, it really does mold you as a person. Yeah,
absolutely.
As a child, did you ever watch the Apprentice? Or is that?
Well, it wasn't as a child, but The Apprentice has
I don't know how long it's been going on for. So
well, I think The Apprentice started in 2003, I think.
Oh, okay.
Was the very first Apprentice episode by Donald Trump. Yeah. But the first time I watched it was 2010, and it was a it was a major milestone in my journey.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, what was it about Donald Trump that in The Apprentice that made you want to become an entrepreneur?
Well, at the time, I don't even think it was, there's this Donald Trump guy. I think it was just so. The way it worked out is a friend of mine in uni, I was in my second year in uni, just randomly came to me and said, Steak, I think you like this. I'm like, what movie is it? So it was handing me a DVD.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what's this about? And then it was like, just go watch it, you like it. And then I took it and I slotted into my laptop. You remember those laptops that had CD-ROMs?
Oh, right?
Back in the day. Some people might not remember. In any case, so slotted into my laptop and on came season 1, episode 1 of The Apprentice. And here comes this guy. I'm the biggest real estate developer in New York, and then he does his stuff. And for me, it was, okay. I'd never seen that world before. So I'd never seen, it never registered to me up until that point that it was people that create and drive businesses that then have all the multiple layer of impact that he has in society. So for example, somebody decides in his mind to say, I'm going to create a business. And by creating that business, they're able to solve somebody's problem or a lot of people's problem. They're able to employ people and give a means of livelihood to somebody, which then begins to feed a family. You know, they pay taxes to the government. They give media stories to talk about. And so entrepreneurs, I strongly believe, make society go round. So for me, it was like, this guy is rich. He has a lot of stuff, like buildings everywhere. And now he's teaching people how to do business in a fun, entertaining way on TV. I was like, this is what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And right then and there, from that point on, I started compulsively learning about entrepreneurship.
So that's like that's where the seed was planted.
Yeah, that's my origin story.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because of the truth, up until that point, my life literally had no direction. So no, don't let me say that way. Let me say it this way. I didn't have agency over my own life. Because up until that point, I was just going through life. So naturally, there is a sequence that society has designed for everybody, right? You choose whether or not you want to break out of that sequence. But society says you're born, then you go to school, primary, and then you go to secondary, tertiary. And then once you're done with school, you get a job. And then once you get a job, you get married. Once you get married, you make babies. Once you make babies, you wait to die.
Yeah.
Right? That's sort of like the conveyor belt of life. So up until that point, I wasn't, in control of what was happening with my life. I was just going through the sequence.
Yeah.
But it was that point that at this point, I was studying accounting in uni. And I remember one of the very first decisions that I made as a result of watching The Apprentice was that I was not going to practice as an accountant. Once I finished the uni, I was going to start my first business. And so when my friends in school were saying, we need to start our professional exams, and they were registering for the professional exams and all those kind of things to become a chartered accountant, I just kept saying, I'm not interested.
Yeah,
but I'm not doing this because that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, it was the defining moment, because from that point on, I watched every single episode of The Apprentice, bought every DVD for every season up until that point of the US Apprentice. Then I hopped on to Lord Sugar's Apprentice. Then I watched every single episode of Shark Tank that I could find. Then I watched every single episode of Dragon's Den, and then $1 Million Buyer, and then The Prophet, and what other business show was there? What's that one where they disguise? I can't remember what is there. Where, anyways, lots of business shows. I just kept going, and then business books, Brian Tracy, Richard Branson, Donald Trump, all the books he had written, I've read, Robert Kiyosaki. I just compulsively learning entrepreneurship, and we're here today.
Yeah, and would you just describe that as your first step into this journey? It was just watching everything and
absolutely, because from that point in 2010 to 2014, the driver of everything I did was just to learn entrepreneurship, read about business, all of that. And then I remember in early 2014, I then watched The Men Who Built America. And that was the time then where it then clicked for me even further that entrepreneurs are nation builders, right? If they are aware enough about it, entrepreneurs actually are the ones who build society. And that was for me another massive light bulb moment that, so this thing I'm doing is not just about, let's build a business, let's make some money. No, this is the vehicle through which we transform society. And this is the vehicle through which I make an impact in the world. So
no, I can see. And you named Richard Branson as one of your inspirations. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, and you said as well, when you studied, you did entrepreneurial studies. Is that right? Yeah.
So when I did my master's at Aston University, I did master's in entrepreneurship.
Okay, tell us a bit about that. What was that like?
Well, that was awkward.
Really? Why?
Yeah, because it was in the middle of COVID.
So
didn't go to classes and things of that nature. So it was just all the classes were online.
Gotcha.
And it was a small group as well. But it was a fun course. It was really good to see an academic's view of entrepreneurship and some of the academic underpinnings of the world of entrepreneurship. Because mind you, the entirety of my exposure to entrepreneurship has always been practical. So from 2010 to 2014, when I was studying, but then I was just focused on entrepreneurship. I was studying from people that had their own business, that were building their own businesses, captains of industry. And then in 2014, I started my first business, didn't work out, then started a second business in January 2015, and that business still thriving till today. So all of that journey was like, I learned from people that were doing, and then I did myself. And then I went through all the ups and downs. So it was really when I started my master's at Aston that I really began to see the academic underpinnings to some of the things that I knew in the marketplace. So.
Gotcha. So it's basically seeing in the academics stuff you've already learned from watching other people, from your own trial and error as well.
Absolutely.
I see, yeah. And you mentioned your first business. What was that? If you don't mind me asking.
My first business was selling value field trips, so value-based field trips to secondary schools. The concept was secondary schools would organize field trips like to places, to the airport, to zoos and all this kind of stuff, right? But it was just travel down there, see the experience, bring all the kids back.
And then come back.
So I thought this was my idea, my big idea after 4 years of studying entrepreneurship. So my big idea was, so what had happened was, so this was, late 2013. So 2013 was a year for me where I learned a lot about, values and why they matter and nation building and all of that. And then it was part of that I then watched The Men Who Built America. So values was like very big for me at the point in time. So like integrity, empathy, being professional, being punctual, dressing, all those kind of things were top of mind for me. So I thought to myself, they don't teach these things in schools, but when they go on field trips, the road trip there is empty, the road trip back is empty. So we're going to design field trips, but one of the uniquenesses around it is going to be that on the trips to and fro, there was going to be a lot of values education and stuff. So I went to a lot of schools, they loved the idea, but nobody bought.
Yeah.
Right. I tried to run that business for 10 months. I didn't make a single cent in sales.
Okay, I see. But I understand the idea. It's a very useful idea because you're seeing an empty space and a big potential for it. And something you were also very motivated for as well. And your second business, was it Enterprise Hill?
Yeah, my second business.
Okay, could you talk to us a bit about that?
Enterprise Hill is my baby.
Yeah.
So the foundations of Enterprise Hill came from, so first business I started in 2014. At the beginning of the year, ran it till October.
Yeah.
As of October, I had not made my first cent in sales, not even profit, no sales yet.
Nothing at all, yeah.
And then I was invited to come do a speaking engagement by a friend. And then the friend also invited one of our mentors. So backstory, I got on a nation building program, which is what I was talking about in terms of all the nation building things. So it was a nation building program that I got on, and we got assigned. So we're grouped into groups of 10 young people, and then we got assigned a mentor. So the friend that invited me to speak was one of the 10. He was a teacher in a school. So he invited me to speak to a student. Then he also invited our mentor. And then, so we went to the speaking engagement. We did our thing. We finished up, and then we're heading back. My mentor was driving. I wasn't, but we're going the same direction. So I decided to hitch a ride with her.
Okay.
And then we got into the car, and then we got stuck in traffic for 3 hours.
Okay. Yeah.
And just as we got into traffic, she just said to me, Davis, we're good. It looks like we're going to be in this traffic for a long time. We can either see this as a cup half full or half empty, because that's what she had talked about at the event. I was like, yeah, we have to see it as half full. And then we started having a conversation, and she was asking me about myself, what I was doing. And in those 3 hours in traffic, she helped me see that really what I was doing wasn't really going to work because I didn't have credibility in the space. However, if I combine my passion for entrepreneurship with my skill set as an accountant, because I just finished studying accounting and I knew my stuff, even though I never practiced. But I did really well in school, and I knew what to do with numbers and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So like you combine both, where you you do accounting for the businesses, and that way you can help them to grow. And so for me, it was a light bulb moment in that traffic. I remember it was the 31st of October, 2014.
Oh, the exact date and everything.
Yeah, that was the exact day. And so between 31st of October, 2014 and the end of that year, I started planning, this is what I was going to do, blah, blah, blah. And then November, every year, I think the second week of November is always Global Entrepreneurship Week. So I remember then there was Global Entrepreneurship Week celebration. And then I went to one of the events. And then at one of those events, I then pitched my enterprise idea. And then there was somebody in the audience that then reached out to me later and said, I really like your idea. It's something that I'm trying to do as well. So we became co-founders. Right.
Okay.
And then on the 5th of January, 2015, we started Enterprise Hill.
I see.
With
It's the origin story.
both of us and our laptops. That was all it was.
Yeah,
that was it. Right. So
very
at the
humble
pitch
beginnings.
competition, I had won a free co-working space for a year. So we just went to the co-working space with our laptops and sat down.
Yeah, and then it started out from there.
That was
Very
the
similar
start.
to us. So I'm getting a bit of deja vu.
That was the start. Yeah.
Yeah. And you later then appeared on a show. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you talk to us about that?
So,
Yeah, that's a very big talking point.
yeah, it's a big talking point because it was a full circle moment. It was a full circle moment because my journey started with The Apprentice,
Yeah.
and then
And like your passion of it and wanting to watch any shows that was similar
exactly
as well.
any
Yeah.
business. So business shows were my thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
loved watching business shows. The one I forgot was Undercover Boss.
Oh, yes,
Right?
yes.
Undercover
yeah,
Boss
yeah.
was the one I forgot. So I think earlier in 2015, after I started Enterprise Hill, I then happened upon a show called The Next Titan.
That's
The
the one.
Next Titan is literally the same thing as The Apprentice. It's the same structure.
Yeah.
The
Just the
only
Nigerian
difference,
version.
it was the Nigerian version, and the only difference was, as opposed to there being one big massive entrepreneur calling the shots, there were like 4, right, in The Next Titan. So I'd watched the first episode, which they did like the year before, 2 years before, and they didn't do the year after. So I think the first episode was the first season was 2013, and they didn't do anyone in 2014. I was like, so anyways, I watched it because it was a business show and that was it and stuff. And so I think January 20, somewhere in the early parts of 2015, I can't remember exactly when, I came across on the internet that a second, season was going to happen. So I applied, didn't hear anything back, and then I forgot about it. So we started Enterprise Hill in January 2015. Fast forward to June, we were getting by. So we're getting small deals and things were working out. And then in June, this is crazy. We got approached out of the blue by a German company,
Okay.
a German brewery company. They wanted to set up a Nigerian office, and they wanted us to set up their accounting softwares.
Okay, for them.
And
yeah.
what they were going to pay us was 3 times everything we had made from inception till that point.
Wow, that must have been crazy.
So that was big.
Yeah. That must have been insane.
I researched the company, I got ready, blah, blah, blah. I went for the meeting. So I went for the meeting. The deal was virtually agreed.
Yeah.
So we're done online correspondence. They were fine. They were just like, our director is going to be in Lagos next week. Let's have a meeting to just chat through the final bit. I went for that meeting. They asked me a number of questions. I remember getting flustered in some of those, getting caught unawares with some questions, but just trying to dance my way through it with my words. I remember trying to do that. So when I left the meeting, I didn't feel like it was a great meeting. I was still on the bus home when I received an email saying, sorry, we will not be going ahead with you guys.
Okay, yeah.
I was crestfallen. I was crushed.
I can imagine,
Right.
man. Something that big as well.
Yeah, so I was so crushed, and I said to myself, the reason why this happened is my lack of experience. Remember, I'd just left uni, right? So there's something we do in Nigeria called the National Youth Service, where you literally go work for a year for the federal government for free.
Oh, okay.
So that's what that
really?
is,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
they post you somewhere across the country to go do some community service type work. So I was teaching secondary school students and whatnot. Anyway, so I'd finished uni, went for that youth service, and then started the first business that didn't work out, and then started Enterprise Hill. So
Enterprise Hill.
I'd never really worked anywhere. So I was saying to my co-founder, the reason why this kind of thing happened, why we lost this kind of deal, is because of our lack of experience, if we're being real with ourselves. So we have a decision to make. We can keep carrying on with the business and keep getting our, dots in the bucket and trickles along. Or we could take a break, go do some proper internship in some proper organizations for like 3 months. At least we see how things work in big organizations. We'll learn a thing or two, and then we'll come back and then we'll go run the business. Mm-hmm. She went, great idea, right? So she even had she had done an internship at an audit firm while she was studying. I'd done nothing of such. So she went off to the person she worked with previously, and then she got an internship. Then I spoke to my mentor, the same person that helped me join those ideas up in traffic. And then she connected me with one of her clients. So this client of hers was the biggest children's fashion retailer company in Nigeria. Yeah. So they manufacture and retail children's wear. They're the biggest in Nigeria. So she got me an internship in the accounts department at their head office, which was really good. So I'd gotten on that internship, I think it was the beginning of August, right? And that in itself has a story because I only spent 6 weeks in that role. I'll tell you the reason why in a bit. But in those 6 weeks, I learned a lot of things about business structure. And there's a theme there to talk about. But in any case, started that internship in August. I was meant to be there August, September, October, and then go back to the business. And then in the first week of September, I got an email inviting me to come audition for the next Titan.
For the next Titan.
I was like, I really would love to do this and stuff. And then, I spoke to my direct manager. It was very encouraging. Like, he was supporting me to go. I spoke to my mentor. She was supportive and said, "No, you should go, give it a shot and stuff." And everybody was supportive. So I left the internship earlier than expected. So I only did 6 weeks. And then I went to the auditions. I remember there's actually a picture somewhere. If I look for it, I'll find it, of me at the audition.
You might be able to find it as well.
And I was pointing to myself and I was saying, "You're hired." I was so sure at auditions I was going to win. Anyways, long story short is I went to the auditions. So the auditions were about 3,000 people.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Oh, we're a lot in Nigeria. If you haven't noticed.
I thought it'd be like 50.
And this was just the Lagos audition. So they've done auditions in 2 other places in the country.
Wow, okay.
This was the Lagos auditions, and there were 3,000 people that had been invited.
Yeah.
And they were only selecting 30 people.
Wow.
Because across the other 2 locations, they selected 20 people.
Yeah.
And they had needed 50 people to go into a boot camp. Right? So anyways, we did the whole thing and I got selected in the top 30. And this was the funny part. Can I tell more stories?
Yeah, cool. No, go for it.
So this was the funny part. We got selected and then they told us after being selected that you're going to the boot camp. So this was like a Wednesday. And they said, report back here on Monday. We're going to the boot camp.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, and that's crazy.
It wasn't the closeness of the time that was a problem for me. It was the fact that I didn't even have a traveling bag.
Yeah.
Right? Remember, like, I wasn't, at this point in my life, my journey, my business journey, I'd not been making a lot of money. I mean, where every single cent we had made in the business, we were, reinvesting. So I remember the very first sale we made, we spent it on making complimentary cards. Right? A business card. So that when I go to events and I speak to people, I can give them my card and stuff. And then so we'd been building that way. The next deal, we'd made letterhead papers and things of that nature. So I didn't have a lot of money. I had just a few shirts. My shoes were probably like very tired, So I didn't even have a bag.
Just to travel with.
And I was going, so what do I do, man? I need to buy a traveling bag at least to pack my stuff. And then on my way home, I inquired about the cost of a bag. I was told what the cost was. And then I said to myself, I only really need about 10 people to give me 300 Naira. So Naira is Nigerian currency. And with that, I'll be able to buy the bag. So what did I do? Right then and there, I came up with a training that I was going to do on the Saturday. And then I went on Canva, I designed an image, and then designed the image, put it on my WhatsApp stories, and then sent it to every single person that I know, that both friend, entrepreneur, business. I was just sending it out. I'm doing this training on Saturday, blah, 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 blah. I didn't tell them what it was for. Anyways, did the training. 14 people showed up.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
They all paid me. Did the training for 2.5 hours. Everybody left, had fun. They all enjoyed it. I got my money, bought my bag, went to the boot camp.
Damn. Yeah.
It's really, really cool. Really, really cool.
It's
And that
actually a
was
really cool
the
journey.
first ever, paid training program that I organized, and it came out of necessity. In any case,
They came out by force, but it's like,
and then went to the boot camp. So we're at the boot camp for, I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something of that nature. And then from the people in the boot camp, they were going to then select a final 18, I think, or 18 or 16 to go into the house. And then got selected, went into the house. The entire show was for 8 weeks. I remember my team lost the first, so there were 7. The show itself was like 7 weeks of the tasks, and then the final. The first 5 weeks, my team was on the losing side. So of the 5 weeks, I was on eviction roll 4 times, and I had to pitch every single time why I should not get fired. And I didn't get fired, got into the finals and won.
Yeah, and you won. That was the craziest part as
So
well.
that was a nice full circle moment. And the winning was really good because it gave me a chunk of money. It gave me a brand new car. It was a new lease of life for me.
So I knew like a whole new chapter of your life as well that I unlocked. But it's insane, going from like watching The Apprentice and all these different shows to actually winning one.
Absolutely.
Which is, it's
really
like
cool.
The perfect example of like a full circle moment.
Full circle moment, definitely.
And it's very random, but do you still watch The Apprentice?
Yeah, well, not the UK one. Again, they don't do the US one anymore. So I generally don't watch now. But if I'm on YouTube and I find a clip of it, I'll just watch a short clip. But I don't watch it as much because I think now it's just a pile of nonsense.
It's different now.
No offense.
It was better when you were on there.
It was better back then. It was more quality. I think now the show aspect of it has overridden the business aspect of it.
Yeah, it's more dramatized.
Yeah, and business as it's portrayed on The Apprentice is not business in real life, right? People don't do business that way. So it doesn't work for me.
Yeah. And after this, newfound success and all these things you got from it, what was it like after that? Because that's like, I'm guessing the first time in your business journey where, you had your major win. Yeah, and you had the money to play with as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
what happened after that?
I mean, it was cool. So the business took off. So one of the first things that actually happened was my co-founder left the business.
Oh, okay.
Now, the reason why, there were 2 things. Primarily, she had a family circumstance that necessitated her not working as much. So that was the first one. But then the other bit was, now that I had money, I wanted to accelerate growth, put money into the business, run it, go really fast.
Yeah.
No, she wanted us to keep going organically and stuff. Plus, she wasn't going to be around much. And then, again, we're still great friends still today.
Yeah.
But so she left the business. And then, I just carried on with Enterprise Hill. So I remember the very first hire I had was a friend of mine from uni. So we're friends. So I rang her up. She had just finished her master's. And I was like, hey, I'm doing this thing, right? Do you want to come work with me? And she said yes. Hired her. She came aboard, hired a few people, and then started running the business. We're growing. We're getting clients. We're doing work. So ultimately at that point, because the more we worked, we weren't just accountants. So the uniqueness for what we were doing was we were doing accounting as a way of evaluating what was happening in the business and then using that to then define strategy, because my biggest strength was in business strategy at the point because of all the things I learned over, reading all those books and watching all those shows.
All that experience.
So I was looking at the numbers to see what was happening and then saying, client, you need to do more of this. You need to do less of this. You need to stop doing this. You need to start doing this. So it was just that advisory element.
Yeah.
And we're doing really, really well. And things were progressing quite well. And then sometimes we had downs, sometimes we had ups. Then I think at about 2017 or 2016, I think, end of 2016, I started noticing a trend of, I would hire people. So again, because I couldn't hire top dollar talent, right? Mostly what I would do was I would hire people that were fresh from uni, right? I would train them up, right, in what we were doing. They would get really good at it. And then, we had a great culture. We enjoyed ourselves. We had a good time.
Yeah.
And, but then they would get offered a role by like the big four, for example, the PwCs and KPMGs of this world.
Yeah.
And those guys would be paying like times 4 what they were earning with us. And so they would leave.
Which makes sense, yeah.
Originally, it was sort of like irritating for me, like, oh, no. But then very quickly, I think after the first 3 happened, I noticed that there's a pattern here, right? These people come here green, right? I train them, help them get started on their journey. And when they leave, what do they go to? They go to like dream companies that people have.
Yeah.
And like, that's a good thing. Like I'm helping people kickstart their journey. And it's a thing of pride for me to be able to say the people that I trained, right, were poached.
Yeah.
By those guys, right?
Yeah,
So it became a
big
thing of
flex.
pride. Yeah, so it was really good. And then because that was happening, we then had to recruit just to keep the head count up to what it needed to be to service all of the clients that we had. But recruitment was quite challenging, not because we couldn't find people, but because the people were just not as good quality enough. So these were people that are coming out of university, but they didn't even know certain basic things. Again, the standard of education in Nigeria wasn't the greatest. So you would find somebody who had graduated from an accounting degree that never seen what don't even talk about an accounting software. They don't know what accounting softwares are, but they've never even seen a ledger before. They don't know what the difference between an invoice and a receipt. That was I remember that one because that was one of my questions. Every single interview, what's the difference between an invoice and a receipt? It was quite challenging. So what I decided to do was I was going to set up a social enterprise where we were going to go into the universities and train people, right, on how to use accounting softwares, but then it was not just going to be the accounting software. It was then going to be a lot of other soft skills that helps you easily navigate from school into the uni. So I created this social enterprise called Competence Africa.
Oh, okay.
The reason why I created it was to primarily solve our problem because the undertone was, if we do this, not only are we going to achieve great impact, right? Again, because they're going to pay for the service as well. There's going to be some revenue to sustain the impact. But ultimately for us, what do we achieve? We would have trained the people and created a pool of talent for ourselves, right? So one of the promise of the program was, if you learn the accounting software, we will get you an internship. Guess where you were going to do the internship? With us.
Guys,
So that's what we did. And we did that, and that was very successful. I think
I can imagine,
we delivered that program across 4 different universities from 2017 all the way till 2020 when, COVID hit and then I came to the UK and all that jazz. It was really good. And we had some good fun.
No, that sounds amazing. Like, it's an amazing journey, an amazing story, and you're a very good storyteller as well.
Thank you very much.
And all of this has led to Pitch Hub.
Absolutely.
So tell us, what is Pitch Hub?
So Pitch Hub ultimately is an investment readiness organization whose sole mission is to create fast growth funded businesses. Boom. That's it.
Okay.
So our goal is ultimately to help businesses achieve rapid growth. And one of the ways by which you achieve that as well is to get funded. So the 3 fundamental things we focus on. We focus on, first of all, helping the business become investable, right? We can talk about what investability means, but ultimately the business itself is an asset worthy of investment. So it has to be a revenue generating company and a few other things. Then we focus on getting the business investment ready, right? So we do a lot of work on investability, then we do a lot of work on investment readiness. And then once we've achieved all of that, we connect them to funders and support them through the process of raising capital. And then once they've raised capital, they're on their way to growth. And if they want to continue working with us, then they can become client of enterprise, where we do the accounting to help them grow and scale that way. So ultimately, that's what Pitch Hub is. So we're all about helping businesses achieve rapid growth. So our moniker for it is fast growth funded businesses is what we're looking to build. And the way we do that investment readiness intervention is varied. So we are currently developing an investment readiness platform. It's called Vanello. It's going to be out in a couple of months.
Where does that name come from?
Where did Vanello come from? Okay, I'll tell you where the name come from.
Yeah.
Where the name came from. In backstory.
Another backstory. Is it like
in 2017, right,
Yeah.
while I was running Enterprise Hill, we're using accounting softwares. We're one of the pioneers of the use of cloud-based accounting softwares in Nigeria, actually. So we're deploying accounting softwares, QuickBooks, Xero, the small business account softwares everybody knows today. We're deploying to businesses, but I was finding a lot of inefficiencies in those softwares. So I decided, originally we're providing some feedback to the QuickBooks and Xeros of this world, but they weren't responding. So I then decided with my team in 2017 that we're going to build an accounting software of our own. Okay. And the name we came up with for it was Novel, Novel.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was going to be Novel.
Novel, some new.
Right,
and,
exactly.
Yeah.
So long story short, the accounting software dream did not eventually materialize after 6 years of trying.
Yeah.
Right. But then when I finally killed the idea and said the market had caught up, we had these ideas in 2017. The things we thought were innovative in 2017, which was really innovative, the rest of the software guys are now implemented in 2023, 2022. Yeah. So there's no point. The market has caught up. There's no point in this anymore. And so when we then decided to kill that, and then this idea for Vanello came up, I thought, okay, I don't want to call it Novel because I'd put out a lot of word into the ether.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With Novel. But I needed a new name. Right. So I thought on long and hard. And then, so if you take Novel. Yeah. And you scramble the words, right? Yeah. And you add an O in there, it spells Vanello. And then the name sounded nice and cool, right? Yeah. Vanello.
I thought with that story, you're going to have this crazy and insane origin.
It was just scrambling Novel around. And so it was like, So that's how Vanello came about.
No, it sounds nice.
We've got that coming up with Pitch Hub. We do a lot of investment readiness program design. So for organizations and government and stuff that want to design and develop an investment readiness program. So we do that. I deliver a lot of investment readiness related speaking engagement, did one earlier this week for Elevate. And then we do a lot of one-to-one work with founders that really want to raise capital. And so we do consulting work with them along that journey. And I've also got a book coming out on investment readiness as well. So lots of different formats for delivering the investment readiness proposition. And then we do a lot of workshops and masterclasses as well. But ultimately, what we are all about is whatever intervention we put out there, whatever the format of the intervention, whether it's a training, a program, a book, a software, consulting service, whatever it might be, it's all about creating fast growth funded businesses. Okay,
I see, yeah. And I have another question for you. So could you give us an example of a digital solution you can conceptualize for our clients without naming any names or anything like that?
So can I give an example of a digital solution I have conceptualized for clients?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I have particularly conceptualized a digital solution for a client. No, I haven't. The bulk of my work has not been in the ideation phase.
Gotcha.
Right? Okay. The bulk of my work has been in the acceleration phase. So you got an idea and you want to move it forward. You want to be, so an idea is a concept, right? A business is the infrastructure that is built around the concept to then take it to market, right? So I could have the idea to create a software that automatically gives you a haircut, right? Random stuff. It's just an idea, right? It's a product idea. The infrastructure that gets that thing to become a business, which is a revenue generating machine, right? That's what a business is. So we're thinking, where's the audience? What's the customer acquisition process? What's going to be the structure, internal structure in terms of sales, marketing, accounting, human resources, operations? What resources do we need? Distribution, all this kind of jazz. So that's where the bulk of my work is from a strategic standpoint. And then managing whatever strategy we've designed on an ongoing basis, that's where financial management comes in, which is where we're then looking at numbers saying, this is the plan we put together. You're not quite following it, or you're not meeting up to the expectations. Why is that? And then we dig into the diagnosis of that, and then we review, and then we revise the strategy. So it's strategic management, strategic advisory, then financial management. And then if that growth journey requires them raising capital, then investment readiness come into that. So the three primary superpowers that I have is, strategy and advisory, financial management, and investment readiness, which makes me uniquely placed to do what I do. Because every time I take a look at the multiple levels of skill sets and experiences I've been blessed with, it uniquely places me to do what I do today. So if you think about a business raising investment, what do they need? They need to be a fully functional business that is operational, money generating, right? They need to then get ready to raise investment. What do investors look for in terms of readiness? They want to see your pitch decks. They want to see your financial models. They want to make sure that the founders, are the right type of people to lead the business. And they want founders that are confident, that can pitch. And a pitch is actually a way to very easily assess the communication and confidence level of a founder, and all this kind of stuff. If you look at my experiences and my expertise, right? I started an accounting business. I've got a deep background in strategy, right? Pitch Hub, when it started in 2021, was a pitch deck design agency.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Okay,
That's why the name Pitch Hub.
That's where the name comes from, yeah.
So we were a pitch deck design agency. So I've done accounting and finance. I've got strategy. I've got pitch deck design agency. I've been a public speaker for the last 15 years, professionally for the last 11.
Wow. Okay,
right?
Yeah.
So if I take all of those, and then between 2021 and this year, I worked extensively. The bulk of my work, 98% of my work, was on getting businesses funded. Right? So that started with Pitch Hub. So with Pitch Hub, it was businesses that was looking to raise capital that wanted us to do a pitch deck for them. We did a pitch deck for them and did a bit of advisory. So that work got noticed by Vernon Hogg, a friend of mine who a lot of people know. So Vernon then at the time was working with the Combined Authorities Investment Readiness Project, but it was the only one. And then he invited me. I think you can really do a lot of good work with me. Come join me. Joined him. And then together we built the foremost program for investment readiness in the West Midlands called Founders Collective. And between 2022 and now, we've supported about just a little more than 60 businesses to raise approximately £15 million.
Which is a crazy amount, yeah.
And that's a lot of early stage funding. This is not later stage funding. So this is businesses raising 100K, 250K, 50K, all sort of bits and bobs that way. I think the highest raise we had was probably maybe 1.1 million or something of that nature. Yeah. So a lot of heavy lifting work on investment readiness, working with founders that were looking to raise, working with investors that were looking to invest, bridging that gap. So everything I've done up until now in my journey, right, just uniquely places me
piecing it all together
to help businesses achieve this growth objective through funding.
Yeah, it's like an orchestra, like all these different instruments over time, building the person you are in the business.
God is a master planner.
Yeah. I wanted to ask as well, there's a term you used, I just want to clarify for our audience as well. MSMEs, what is that?
A lot of people use that term and don't know what it means. But anyways, MSMEs primarily means micro, small, and medium scale businesses. So
Okay.
MSME is micro, small, medium enterprises is what it means. But then you can just say micro, small, medium scale businesses or micro, small, and medium scale enterprises. But that's what that means.
Okay, gotcha. And earlier as well, you mentioned a lot on values, and that
Absolutely.
played a big role in your first business, values. What are some of the man you are today, what are some of your core values that I think are the most important?
Fabulous. I could tell you what my core values are. Right? So as a person, I've got 6 core values that I live by.
Gotcha.
So the first is action, right? I am always biased towards action, right? The second is stewardship. I believe that everything that I have is a gift from God, and God has placed me in a unique position to look after those things, to utilize them efficiently and effectively, and to multiply them, right? So I see myself not as an owner of anything that I own, but as a steward of everything. God has given me certain things to look after. So everything in my life I approach from the standpoint of a steward. So first is action, second is stewardship, and then the third is proactiveness, right? I always try to be proactive, and I always want to see people be proactive. The level of intelligence that I believe that God has blessed us with is sufficient enough for us to see things before they happen, right? And we know this thing sometimes, but sometimes we're just, not responsive enough. But I'm a big person around being proactive, thinking ahead, visualizing what you think is going to happen, and acting before that actually happens. So for me, it's action, it's stewardship, it's proactiveness, right? And then it is integrity. My definition of integrity is what you think, what you say, and what you do needs to align.
All be the same thing.
Right? It always has to align. So for me, that is very, very big. And I learned about integrity the hard way. And then responsibility is the fifth value that I hold, which is you're responsible for everything. Nobody owes you anything. The government is not the cause of your problems. Nobody else is the cause of the issues that you have. It's all down to you. If anybody's going to fix it, it's you. So, and what that does to me is it gives me agency. I have a outwardly sense of agency. Like I am fully in control, right? So I don't ever subscribe to anything that tries to presuppose that my experiences are the result of somebody else's making. No.
Okay.
Right? I'm the master of my ship. I'm the captain of my destiny. I determine what happens to me, right? So for me, that's a big one. And then the last one is empathy. Always remember that you might have the level of enlightenment that you have, but other people come from different walks of life, and you must be able to relate to them and see the world from their worldview, and just listen and learn about their lives and their viewpoint, and just being able to yield that ground, because the world was not built for me, right?
Yeah,
so
it's built for us.
So it's built for us. So you must be able to see things from other people.
And I find it very interesting, your perspective on empathy, because I've never heard of someone describe empathy from a business perspective. Because my background is like a medical background, and obviously empathy is very important to understand what patients are going through and to build that rapport as well. And with you speak about having that empathy for clients and business owners and seeing things from their perspective. And you describe that as how you can build a successful and stable relationship and to truly understand what they're trying to do. And yeah, I find that very interesting. It's very new and unique take.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So you've got to, there's a very, how do I say that now? There's a very easy trap to fall into where you begin to feel like particularly when you are very strong about your convictions, it's very easy to fall into the trap of, my worldview is the worldview, so everybody either conforms or go the highway.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It's very easy to fall into that mindset.
And regardless of how much you know or how enlightened you think you are, you don't know everything. In fact, the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know.
It's like that scale. I forgot what it's called. Yeah,
exactly.
But the more you know, you realize there's actually a lot I don't know.
So you just have to realize that there is a lot you can learn from everybody. You may not agree with some things that some people say, but there is a lot that you can learn from every single person. One of the favorite ways I like saying it is eat the fish and toss the bone. There are things that people come with that you don't want to. I mean, so Donald Trump, we talked about him earlier. A lot of people ask me, how can you follow that man? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, with everything he said and done, the controversies.
For me, again, people hear what they want to hear. Yeah. But, I've learned a ton of stuff from Donald Trump. And there are certain things about Donald Trump that if he asked me, would you ever do that? Absolutely no, I wouldn't. Yeah. But the thing is, I know how to eat the fish and toss the bone.
It's like you take the good and you acknowledge the bad. Yeah. You leave
Absolutely.
the bad. Gotcha. Yeah. It's very interesting. Another question I want to ask is, a lot of the things you're speaking about comes from your own experiences and your own this whole entire journey you've gone through. I was wondering, was any, like, for example, books you'd recommend for someone wanting to develop this kind of mindset or to have a stronger understanding of businesses and whatnot?
Lots of books.
Oh, okay.
So the first set of books I always recommend to anyone is, particularly if you're looking to build a business or you're at the start of your journey, whatever, is Principles of Work and Life by Ray Dalio.
Okay, gotcha. Principles of Work and Life.
I read that book in 2020 and it shot to the top of my best books of all time.
Really? Okay.
Principles of Work and Life by Ray Dalio, I always recommend. The Richest Man in Babylon, I always recommend, because everybody should read that book as a part of life, right?
Yeah.
It's a very simple book to read. It's a very small book. It teaches the fundamental principles of how money works, and I believe everybody should read it. So, Principles of Work and Life by Ray Dalio. Richest Man in Babylon, definitely I would recommend. I would also recommend that people read Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley.
Okay, yeah.
That's a very, very good book. What other book would I recommend? There's so many.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, there's so many books.
Would you say these are your main, the top three,
those would be like top three.
Top three recommended reading. And the final question I'll give you is, you strike me as someone who, when they have a goal or a target, they do everything in their power to achieve that goal. And so far, that's been the case. So I just wanted to know, in the next 5-10 years or so, what are your next big goals, your big targets? Where are you going to be in 10 years?
I am going to disappoint you on this one. So
okay, go on.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. How do I say this? So I am very clear, right, about what I do in terms of goals. So let me try to answer the question straightly. So I don't have a goal.
Okay.
I don't have a goal.
Answer. Yeah.
I'm a faith-driven person, right? I take my personal relationship with Jesus very seriously, and I believe that I live as my Lord leads. So whatever it is that I feel that God is saying to me in the moment to do is what I do, and I know already that I'm living in my purpose. So I am doing what I'm here on earth to do.
Gotcha.
Right? Entrepreneurship is my vehicle. Speaking is my superpower. God has blessed me with a set of things that are very clear. And I know every time that I do the things that I do, I feel very fulfilled in them.
You get the happiness and the satisfaction.
Absolutely. So I'm at a place in my life, in my journey, where I am not chasing anything.
You see yourself like a vehicle of God's will.
I am very grounded in where I am. I feel that I am in the midst of God's purpose.
Yeah.
And if tomorrow God says, turn that way, I'm turning that way. Turn that other way, I'm turning that other way. Wherever that leads me, I mean, I've seen enough in my work, in my 15-year walk with God, that I know that he's never going to shortchange me. Yeah, that much I know. So to that degree, I just follow suit as I feel that my Lord leads. But as long as, I've got breath, I know that I will continue to be passionate about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Because that's what I know. That's the domain that I've been placed in. And I I know that I create a lot of value in that space. So I'm just going to keep doing that as much as I can. And so 10 years, who knows what's going to happen? Right? I mean, one of the things that I have a sense about that I am just not clear about is that I know that at some point in my future, I probably will venture into politics.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
I
have that feeling.
I've always had a sense about that, right?
I see you as somewhere in that space, yeah.
But I just don't know when that would happen, why that would happen, and whatever.
Maybe in 10 years' time, we'll come back as a politician.
You never know. You never know.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having us, for coming by and talking to us today. And that concludes this week's episode. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you.